You probably didn't notice the sound your sleeping bag made when you rolled over last night, that slight, synthetic crinkle of nylon against nylon. It is such a tiny, unremarkable noise, the kind of thing you've ignored 1,000 times. But in the middle of a silent forest, that sound is a broadcast, a sharp, artificial frequency that travels much further than you think. Why do predators ignore sleeping humans? If an apex predator like a mountain lion can hear your heartbeat from across a clearing and smell your skin through 2 layers of fabric, why does it keep walking instead of investigating what looks like a defenseless buffet? Is it because we possess some hidden ancient defense, or are we simply too strange to be considered food? If you were a leopard, would you risk your life to taste something that smells like laundry detergent and fear? This brings us to a question that seems to defy the very laws of the food chain. Why don't we see more campsites turned into crime scenes? You would assume that a creature evolved for millions of years to detect vulnerability would see a snoring primate as the ultimate low-hanging fruit. After all, when you are in deep sleep, your reaction time is non-existent, your senses are dampened, and you are literally tethered inside a bag that prevents you from running. Yet, the statistics tell a story of profound avoidance rather than opportunistic aggression. To understand this, we have to look at the work of Justin Sirachi and his team at the University of California, Santa Cruz. In a landmark 2019 study, they didn't just look at how pumas hunt, they looked at how pumas fear. They placed hidden speakers in the Santa Cruz mountains and played the sound of humans simply talking, not shouting, not threatening, just conversational speech. What they found was that the pumas fled in nearly every single instance. They abandoned kills, they left prime territory, and they did it with a level of urgency that suggested they weren't just annoyed, they were terrified. But why should a 200-pound killing machine be afraid of a conversation? Does the sound of our voices carry a weight that we don't recognize ourselves? Which, by the way, is a level of psychological dominance we rarely credit to our species. It turns out that this fear isn't a modern development. It is a deeply rooted, inherited caution that has been baked into the DNA of predators over the course of 2 million years of human expansion. We are the only animal that has systematically hunted every other apex predator on the planet to the brink of extinction. For hundreds of thousands of generations, the bold predators, the ones that saw a human and thought lunch, were the ones that got speared, trapped, or shot. The predators that survived to reproduce were the ones that felt a cold shiver of dread at the mere scent of a primate. This is what biologists call the landscape of fear, and it serves as an invisible shield around your tent. This raises another point of curiosity. If they are so afraid of us, why don't they just leave the area entirely when we show up? Why do they persist in the shadows of our campsites at all? The answer lies in the brutal mathematics of survival, a field of study pioneered by researchers like John Landry, who coined the term landscape of fear to describe how prey animals move through their world. For a predator, every single hunt is a high-stakes gamble. If a wolf tries to take down an elk and gets kicked in the jaw, it doesn't just have a sore face. It has a death sentence. A predator that cannot bite cannot eat, and a predator that cannot eat is dead within weeks. When a bear or a cougar looks at a human, they aren't seeing a steak. They are seeing a giant unknown variable. They don't know how we fight, they don't know how we move, and they don't know what we're capable of. In the wild, unknown equals dangerous. Could it be that our very helplessness is a form of camouflage? Think about how a predator identifies its prey. It looks for specific silhouettes, specific movement patterns, and specific smells. You, lying flat on the ground, do not look like a deer, a goat, or a wildebeest. You are a horizontal, lumpy shape that doesn't fit the biological template of prey. This is a concept known as olfactory neophobia, the fear of new and unfamiliar smells. And let's be honest, compared to a forest, a human smells absolutely bizarre. To a grizzly bear with a nose 7 times more sensitive than a bloodhound's, you aren't just a biological entity. You are a cocktail of chemical signals. The polyester of your sleeping bag, the mint in your toothpaste, the deodorant under your arms, and the lingering scent of the processed granola bar you ate for dinner. This doesn't smell like food to them. It smells like a laboratory. It is confusing, and in the world of an apex predator, Confusion is a reason to keep walking. But what happens when the sun goes down and we lose our most valuable sense, our sight? How can we be safe when we are at our most vulnerable? This leads us into the fascinating world of human sleep architecture. We often think of sleep as a total blackout, but researchers like those who propose the Sentinel hypothesis argue that our sleep is actually a highly evolved early warning system. Humans spend less time in deep sleep than many other primates, and we wake up much more frequently throughout the night. Which is why you find yourself staring at the tent ceiling at 3 a.m. for no apparent reason. This isn't a glitch, it's a feature. Our brains remain remarkably responsive to what researchers call non-linear sounds. Sharp, sudden noises like a branch breaking or a low growl. This response is mediated by the amygdala, which stays on high alert even when the rest of your brain is dreaming about being back in high school. You are never truly out. You are just on standby. If our sleep is so vigilant, does that mean our ancestors were constantly being tested by the things in the dark? And if so, how did they survive long enough to pass those traits down to us? To answer that, we have to look at the history of the most significant technology humans ever mastered: fire. For over 1 million years, the campfire has been a universal no-fly zone for the animal kingdom. The fear of fire is one of the few instincts that is almost entirely universal across all terrestrial species. It is a primal, hardwired response to the smell of smoke and the flickering of orange light. When you sleep by a fire, or even just in a place that has the faint, lingering scent of human activity, you are invoking a million-year-old treaty. The animals outside the circle of light aren't just staying away because it's bright. They are staying away because fire is the one thing they cannot fight. It is the signature of a creature that has mastered a force of nature, and that signature is still written in your camp's DNA today. But does this rule always hold true? If the treaty is so strong, why do we hear about the horrific exceptions? This is where the work of legendary hunters and naturalists like Jim Corbett becomes essential. Corbett, who spent decades tracking man-eaters in India in the early 20th century, found a consistent pattern in almost every single case. The Champawat tiger, which was responsible for over 400 deaths, wasn't a normal predator choosing to hunt humans. When Corbett finally killed it and examined the carcass, he found that the tiger had been shot in the mouth years earlier, shattering its upper and lower canine teeth. It couldn't hunt its natural prey, the fast, tough deer and boar of the jungle. It turned to humans because we were the only thing it could catch and kill without needing its full predatory arsenal. The same was true for the lions of Tsavo, who had dental abscesses and were living in a region where their natural prey had been wiped out by disease. These weren't predators acting on instinct. They were predators who were broken, starving, and desperate. If injury and desperation are the primary reasons for attacks, does that mean a healthy predator is essentially harmless to a sleeping human? Not exactly, but it means their risk-reward calculation is heavily tilted toward no. Think about the energy expenditure involved in an attack. A predator has to be certain that the calories it gains from a meal will outweigh the calories it spends catching it. Because humans are bipedal, standing on 2 legs, we appear much larger and more imposing than we actually are. Even when we are lying down, the memory of that upright, tall silhouette lingers in the predator's mind. They see a creature that stands like a bear, but moves with the coordination of a primate, and carries tools that can kill from a distance. Which, let's face it, is a terrifying combination. Why would a leopard risk a confrontation with that mystery when there is a perfectly predictable impala just a mile away? This brings us to a more modern discovery. How does our presence change the behavior of the entire forest, even when we aren't there? This is the cascading effect of human fear. When predators like mountain lions avoid humans, it creates a human shield for the animals they would normally eat. In areas with high human foot traffic, deer and elk populations often explode because they realize that their natural predators are too afraid to follow them into the human zone. This suggests that the relationship isn't just between predator and human, but is a massive, structural shift in the entire ecosystem. We are the ultimate apex predator not because we are the best at killing, but because we are the best at being feared. Our reputation precedes us into the dark, acting as a barrier that is more effective than any fence or wall we could ever build. So, Why do we still feel that prickle of fear when we hear a rustle outside our tent? Is that just a leftover relic of a time when we were actually on the menu? Actually, that anxiety is part of the defense. It is your nervous system's way of ensuring you stay in those lighter stages of sleep, keeping you ready to transition from unconsciousness to full-body defense in a matter of seconds. We are the descendants of the light sleepers, the ones who were just paranoid enough to survive the night. And if you're currently lying in a tent reading this, you are proving that the system still works. The fear you feel is the same fear the predator feels. It is a mutual respect for the lethality of the other. We have spent millennia teaching the world to stay away from us, and the world has been a very fast learner. Does this mean the wild is no longer wild? Does our presence effectively neuter the danger of the natural world? Far from it. What it means is that we have carved out a very specific, very strange niche in the biological hierarchy. We are the anomaly species. We don't fit the rules of the savanna or the forest. We are too loud, we smell too strange, we use fire, and we have a history of retaliation that is unmatched in the animal kingdom. When a predator ignores you while you sleep, it isn't because it's being nice, or because it isn't hungry. It's because it has done the math. It has looked at the crinkling nylon, the weird chemical scent, and the legacy of 2 million years of human violence, and it has decided that the risk simply isn't worth the reward. It would rather go hungry for another night than risk waking up the most dangerous animal on Earth. But let's look closer at the bipedal threat I mentioned earlier. Why is walking on 2 legs such a deterrent? In the animal kingdom, standing upright is almost always a sign of aggression or dominance. Think about a grizzly bear standing on its hind legs to get a better look at an intruder, or a cobra raising its hood. By being permanently bipedal, humans are essentially in a constant state of threat display. To an animal that lives on all fours, we look like a creature that is always ready to fight. Even when you are curled up in a sleeping bag, that biological history of the upright killer is part of your identity. You are a member of the species that figured out how to throw rocks with lethal accuracy, a skill that no other animal possesses. A predator doesn't have to be hit by a rock to know that a creature with the arm of a human and the height of a biped is something that can hurt it from a distance. This is a level of reach that predators simply aren't equipped to handle. If we look at the most recent research from 2021 and 2022, we see that this fear is actually intensifying in some areas. As humans move further into wild spaces, predators are becoming even more nocturnal and even more secretive. They are stacking their behaviors to avoid us at all costs. This is a phenomenon called the anthropause, which scientists observed during the global lockdowns of 2020. When humans disappeared from the trails and campsites, animals began to reclaim those spaces almost immediately. But the moment we returned, they vanished back into the deep woods. This tells us that the agreement is still very much in effect. They aren't ignoring us because they've become domesticated. They are ignoring us because we are the dominant force of nature in their environment. This brings us to a final provocative thought. Is our safety in the woods a result of our technology, or is it a result of our history? If you were to take a modern human and put them in a forest without a tent, without fire, and without a sleeping bag, would the predators still stay away? The historical evidence suggests that, while the risk would increase, the inherited caution of the animals would still play a major role. We are not just a person in the woods. We are a representative of a global superpower. The predators don't see an individual. They see a species. They see the thing that changed the climate, the thing that cleared the forests, and the thing that moved the mountains. You are wrapped in a layer of historical dominance that is thicker than any nylon. But what if you're the one who can't sleep? What if the questions in your head are louder than the noises in the woods? Which, let's be honest, is usually the case when you're camping for the first time. If you find yourself wondering whether you've left the food out or whether that shadow moved, remember that your anxiety is a tool. It's the same tool that kept your ancestors alive when they were sleeping in the open on the African savanna. They felt that same pulse of adrenaline, that same heightened awareness. The only difference is that they had to worry about a lot more than just a stray raccoon. They were living in a world where the predators were bigger, faster, and much more familiar with humans. And yet, they made it. They survived the night over and over again for millions of years until they eventually produced you. So, why do predators ignore sleeping humans? It's not one thing. It's a cascade of reasons. It's the landscape of fear created by our violent history. It's the risk aversion calculation of a predator that can't afford a single scratch. It's the olfactory confusion of a creature that smells like a soap factory. It's the sentinel function of our uniquely light sleep. And it's the ancient treaty of the campfire. When you put all of these layers together, you get a protective barrier that is virtually impenetrable. You aren't a victim waiting to happen. You are a ghost story that the woods tell their children. You are the mystery that the leopard decides not to solve. You are the most dangerous thing in the forest, even when you're drooling on your pillow. Think about the sheer improbability of your survival for a moment. You are a soft-skinned, slow-moving, relatively weak primate, and you are sleeping in the middle of a territory controlled by animals that can crush bone with their teeth. And yet you are the one they are avoiding. You are the one who gets to wake up and make coffee while the rest of the forest hides in the shadows, waiting for you to leave. This isn't just luck. It's the result of a 2-million-year PR campaign that your ancestors conducted with spears and fire. We have convinced the world that we are not worth the trouble, and that might be the single greatest achievement of our species. It's a strange thought, isn't it? That our greatest defense is simply being so terrifyingly weird that the rest of nature has decided to just let us sleep. When you pack up your tent in the morning and see a set of tracks circling your camp, don't feel like you had a close call. Feel like you just witnessed a successful negotiation. The animal that left those tracks came close enough to realize you were there, performed the survival math, and decided to walk away. It respected your space, not because it likes you, but because it knows what you are. It knows that the thing inside that tent is a member of the species that rewritten the rules of the planet. And as long as you keep that campfire burning and that synthetic scent strong, the agreement will hold. The woods will stay quiet, the predators will stay back, and you will stay at the very top of the food chain right where you belong. Is it possible that we have become too safe? Have we lost the edge that our ancestors had when they were part of the natural cycle? Which is a question for a different day, perhaps. But for now, as you zip up your bag and settle in, you can take comfort in the fact that you are protected by the most effective security system ever devised. 2 million years of being the most dangerous thing in the dark. The animals outside aren't looking for a way in, they're looking for a way around. They have their own lives to live, their own hunts to conduct, and their own survival to worry about. And in their world, you are a mountain they have no intention of climbing. The next time you're lying there, listening to the wind and the snapping of dry leaves, take a deep breath and realize that you're fine. The crinkle of your sleeping bag isn't an invitation. It's a warning. The smells of your camp are a keep out sign written in a language that every predator understands. And the fact that you're even there, sleeping in the middle of the wild, is the ultimate flex. You are a primate that has conquered the night. Not by becoming a better predator, but by becoming something much more formidable. A creature that simply doesn't belong in the belly of anything else. What would you do if you were on the other side of that nylon? Would you risk a broken jaw for a bite of something that smells like bug spray? Would you challenge a creature that carries the legacy of the mammoth hunters? Of course not. You'd do exactly what the lions, the bears, and the wolves do. You'd take one look at that strange, horizontal shape. You'd catch one whiff of that artificial scent, and you'd turn around and head back into the safety of the trees. Because in the end, the smartest thing any predator can do is leave a human alone. And that is exactly why you're going to wake up tomorrow morning. But let's be entirely clear about the reality of the situation. You are not safe because the woods are kind. You are safe because the woods are smart. Nature isn't a Disney movie where the animals are your friends. It's a high-stakes business environment where every animal is trying to minimize its overhead and maximize its profit. And you, my friend, are the ultimate bad investment. You're too risky, you're too unpredictable, and you're wrapped in too much baggage. So go ahead and close your eyes. The forest is watching, but it's staying exactly where it belongs, on the other side of the line. The truth is, you've never been a victim. From the moment your ancestors first picked up a burning branch and realized that the big cats backed away, the power dynamic shifted forever. You carry that fire with you every time you step into the woods, whether you realize it or not. It's in your voice, it's in your stride, and it's in the very way you sleep. You are the apex of the apex, the master of the landscape of fear, and the reason the night is as quiet as it is. So if you hear something outside your tent tonight, don't worry about what it's doing to you. Worry about what it thinks you might do to it. The animal kingdom has spent millions of years refining its instincts, and those instincts are screaming one thing: stay away from the hairless primates. They have fire, they have rocks, they have memory, and they have each other. If you attack one, the rest will come for you. If you hurt one, they will find you. That is the biological contract that keeps you safe while you dream. It is a contract signed in blood and fire over countless generations, and it is the most reliable security system you will ever own. So rest easy. You aren't a snack. You are a legend. So when you think about it, the question isn't, why do predators ignore sleeping humans? The real question is, why would they ever do anything else? To a predator, attacking a human is a desperate, last-ditch gamble that usually ends in disaster. They know it, we know it, and the history of our species proves it. You are the most terrifying thing in the woods, not because you have claws or teeth, but because you have a reputation that spans the entire history of the world. And that reputation is the best blanket you'll ever have. You aren't a defenseless guest in the house of nature. You are the owner who has finally returned home, and the animals are just staying out of your way until you leave. You are not a victim waiting to happen. You are a ghost story that the woods tell their children. You aren't just sleeping. You're maintaining a 2-million-year-old reign. Sleep well, because the rest of the world is too afraid to do anything else.